Hey guys, so it has been such a long time. I hope you guys are all doing well. um, I think it's probably been, it feels like it's been like a month since I've filmed anything. I think it's definitely been a month since I've filmed anything, but it's maybe been a little bit less than that since I actually posted anything. I can't remember. Time has kind of like lost all meaning. But it has been a busy few weeks. Baby girl, she finally came. She came a little less than a month ago, and we have named her Elizabeth K. Hope. Elizabeth is actually my middle name, and then Kay is actually Randy's mom's middle name. And then Hope, just because you can never have too much hope in the world, and it just seemed like really kind of perfect. I really thought it was a very good addition to the name. And I kind of was already on the lookout for like her having two middle names because Randy has two middle names and I just really love that. And so that was what we decided on. And actually, like, when we found out about her, Randy was pretty much already like, I know what her name is. But yeah, we really like it a lot, and it's really cute. And it's been a lot of adjusting, and I'm probably look like I'm absolutely exhausted. That's been, definitely been one of the things that's been a lot of stuff that we've had to get used to. For the most part, it really hasn't been that bad. I've been able to be off of work, so honestly, it's really fine to me if I have to get up a few times during the night. And then, if I get too sleepy during the day, then I can take a nap. I'm here to kind of do an update on kind of what our world has turned into the last few weeks. My goodness, it's just been a crazy ride. It's really only been a month, but in a lot of ways it seems like it's been so much more. It seems like it's been, years. And then in other ways, I just can't believe that she's almost a month old. Like, it's just so crazy, and I'm sure that any parents out there can fully relate to that. At the time of, you always think like, oh, I can't wait to see them do this, or I can't wait to see them do this, and then and you're always like, striving for them to make those milestones, and you're always thrilled when they do. But then at the same time, like, you look back and you're like, how has time just like flown so much? And that's definitely how it feels like. In a lot of ways, it seems like she's been in our family forever. And then in a lot of ways, like I said, it's just, I can't believe that she's a month old. It seems like every day we're still learning something more about her and about parenthood. It's been a really great experience. We already love her so much. I mean, how can you not? She honestly is such a great baby. It's been a really good journey so far, a really exhausting journey, a really stressful journey, but a really wonderful journey, and one that we're so thrilled to be able to take with her. We were able to go to the hospital. We got a phone call, I want to say like 5 o'clock or something like that, and we went to the hospital, and we were there set up in our little like recovery room. And then it wasn't very long after that she was born. She was able to come into our room, start bonding. And yeah, it was definitely very surreal. I feel like that it's one of those things that you think about and you hope for. And even now it still very much seems like, is this even real? But we're just so excited, so happy to have her here and in our home. And we just love her to pieces. We were at the hospital for basically about a day and a half. That's another thing that was just, it was rough staying in the hospital. For me, I always have a really hard time going into a new place and sleeping. I struggle a lot. To be in a strange place definitely is one of those things that kind of makes it difficult for me to shut my brain off. And that night in the hospital, we'd be laying in bed and, trying to fall asleep or just kind of trying to rest. And she would kind of be fussy, and we'd kind of like, sit back and just kind of wait and see, like, is she just fussy or is she really like needing something? And every single time we'd get up to actually go and check on her, and she would fall asleep. Like, she'd be asleep by the time we got to her bedside. You think you hear them. You either think you hear them or you really do hear them. And so then, like, by the time you actually get in there, though, they're already, like, half the time they're asleep, or, whenever you're laying there in bed trying to get some rest because you've already gotten up and you've checked on them and they're fine, and then you go to bed and then they start crying the second you get into bed, and then you get up to go and check on them, and the second that you get to their bed, they're already asleep. She's done really good with her sleeping for the most part. I think, like, in a lot of ways, we were very surprised with how well she sleeps, but at the same time, like, every week it seems like it changes. And the first week, like, I think she really did amazing. Like, she honestly would only wake up maybe once or twice, but we were also kind of like, putting her last feeding, like, it would be like 11 o'clock at night or something, and it kind of got to the point where it was like, okay, this isn't working, because she's literally sleeping for like 2-3 hours before, her last feeding of the night. And then, like, we're having to stay up even later because we're having to, like, kind of soothe her back into sleep. And it was like, there's really no point to this. Like, why don't we just go on and put her to bed when she goes to sleep? And then we go to bed. And then we can at least get a few hours of sleep in before, like, she needs to eat again. In the hospital, she did not sleep hardly at all that night. Me especially, I feel like that I maybe the entire night maybe got 2 hours of sleep. And part of that was due to the fact that I was just so hyped up that I didn't really want to sleep. I wanted to be there with her, and I wanted to see her, and I wanted to check on her and everything. So yeah, I couldn't sleep, and I really didn't want to, because I was just so happy to be there with her later and later and later in the night. She's literally going to be up in like a couple of hours, and she's going to want to eat, and so it was kind of like, okay, there's really no point in me trying to sleep, because then I'm just going to have to get up. But then at the same time, afterwards, it was like, okay, this is not a good logic to have, because then you're literally never going to sleep. And that was basically what happened that first night. Was I did not hardly sleep at all, because I couldn't shut my brain off. I couldn't, settle down enough to go to sleep. And then, whenever I actually would kind of doze off, she would, wake me up every time. But we made it through, and then about noon the next day, we were able to get discharged. Which I'm going to back up a little bit. The first day that we were at the hospital, a little bit later on in the day, we told our lawyer we sent a message to our lawyers letting him know that the baby was here, and, whatever we needed to know, just to basically kind of give an update to him. And he got back with us shortly thereafter and was like, okay, this is what's got to happen now. And it was like, okay, wait a minute, like, we're at the hospital right now, how do we want to do this? We actually had to leave the hospital later in the day and then go to go meet him somewhere to sign these papers. They were basically papers for, like, to start the process of, like, transfer of custody kind of thing, and hence why they had to be, ready to go before Monday, because then they could be filed and ready to go Monday, and then we could, completely get it all taken care of. And also, in order for us to be able to leave the hospital with her, we had to have the transfer of custody. Not really so much the transfer of custody. We were able to be discharged around like noon or something the next day, and we took her home. And it again was definitely one of those things where it's like, we're taking a baby home. Like, this, it just seemed so crazy to think of that, something that we've, prayed for so long, and then it's finally a reality, and it was just very strange. So yeah, but we were very happy and able to get home and relax for a while. Over the weekend, we spent, you know, the time getting to know her and like kind of getting in the rhythm of a family of 3. It was very, very bizarre. But then I believe that we were scheduled to have court Monday morning. And then her first doctor's appointment was going to be Tuesday. All of that ended up changing because before the end of the weekend, we got a call saying that court had been changed to Tuesday because some stuff had to go through and all of that before we could officially kind of do our part of the, you know, getting the transfer of custody and everything. And so of course, like, they changed it from Monday to Tuesday, of course, like, right when her doctor's appointment was. And so then I also had to go in and reschedule her doctor's appointment for then Wednesday. That was like basically the first few days, and it was chaotic and crazy, and it was surreal and weird. But honestly, court went really smoothly. We were the very first case of the day, so we were pretty much able to get in there. They all pretty much said their piece. The transfer of custody took place, and all the paperwork went through, and then, you know, we were out. They, you know, scheduled for when our, you know, kind of like our official adoption day. Honestly, we were very thrilled because, I mean, we weren't really nervous. Like, we pretty much knew how things were going to go, but at the same time, it's still like a little bit nerve-wracking. Then she went on her first doctor's appointment, and she did great. They, you know, of course, they give you like these graphs of kind of saying like where they were at birth and then where they have kind of grown on all of their different things that they look at, like height and weight and, you know, just all of that kind of stuff, and head size and all of that. And they just kind of show you like where they're, you know, where they're growing at. And she was doing really good. One thing, and this kind of like goes into like her and what we have kind of learned about her and her personality and her preferences. She is such a little piglet. She loves to eat. She's definitely a foodie. She, right from the very beginning, whenever like she was first born, she drank like pretty much 30 mils right from the beginning. And when she did that, her first feeding, they were kind of like, oh yeah, that's good, that's enough. And they were basically like, you know, that's kind of the maximum that you want to give her. You know, most babies, you know, when they're first born, like they'll maybe 10 mils or maybe even 20 mils, but like 30 mils is the absolute maximum that you want to give them because their stomach is so small. Like they were saying that like their stomachs are basically like about this, but they were like, yeah, so it's probably not a good idea to feed her too much because then, you know, it'll be too much and then she'll spit it all up and then that won't be any good for her. But pretty much right away we knew that wasn't going to work because she, like I said, she was drinking 30 mils at every feeding, basically, right from the very beginning. It still didn't seem like it was enough. She started drinking 2 ounces, like probably the 3rd or the 4th day. 30 mils is only an ounce, and so she was basically drinking 60 milliliters at every feeding, and she was only like 3-4 days old. Like she wasn't even a week old, and they had told us that probably by the end of the first week she would be drinking 2 ounces, but I mean, like I said, by the 3rd or 4th day it was already very obvious that no, that was not going to happen. That was not enough for her to drink only an ounce at every feeding. And pretty much by maybe the 1st or maybe like towards the middle of the 2nd week, towards the end of the 2nd week, she was already like consecutively drinking 4 ounces at every feeding every 3 hours. And even when we went to the doctor this last week, the doctor recommended maybe giving her some rice cereal because they thought maybe she might have had a little bit of like acid reflux kind of stuff. And she said that if you give her a little bit of rice cereal in her bottle, that'll kind of help to maybe absorb some of that acid and, you know, be able to fill her belly a little bit better. Let's go on and try that and see how she does with it. Honestly, she's done amazing. Like in 4 ounces, we've been putting a tablespoon in there. and it doesn't slow her down at all. She is just like chugging away like always. And so yeah, we don't have any problems with her feeding, and actually we've given her like rice cereal with a little bit of formula on like a spoon in a bowl a couple of times, and she just loves it. Like, she is just such a little foodie, and she is just growing so much. She's already gained basically a pound from like when she was born, and her head is just like, her head size is just getting bigger, and she's getting taller, and she's just growing so much. And again, I think whenever you're sitting there looking at them all day long, you don't really notice it until you kind of look back at maybe pictures you took the first few days, or you know, you actually see it on paper that this is how much they were, and then now this is how much they are. It's just crazy. It's just so crazy how quickly they grow, but she's just doing so good. So now I'm gonna go into Elizabeth's personalities and kind of like her preferences. From day one, we realized that she does not like to be cold. She does not like to be cold at all. She's definitely gotten a lot better about it. She used to that, like, literally any tiny little bit of coolness, or, you know, like a cool breeze or anything, she would just not be happy, and she would not sleep as well. So yeah, like, to, you know, kind of do diaper changes, to give her a bath, like pretty much anything where she's naked, she is not a happy camper. She does not like to be naked. She wants to have like warmth, like she wants to have a blanket or, you know, something warm on her. She also, like I said, she sleeps a lot. She honestly sleeps pretty well. It's not really so much like she's, you know, asleep all day and she's awake all night. She honestly sleeps a lot. Like, really, her days, nights, everything is literally like she wakes up just long enough to eat, and then she wants to go back to sleep. But we're just so happy. She's just such a good baby. She's such a funny little girl, and she's just got such a funny personality. And honestly, like, we can't wait to see more of it, because on the times where she is awake, she just has the funniest expressions. She just loves to kind of take in everything around her. She loves looking at like contrasting colors, like black and white kind of things, or like the dark against the light. And she's fascinated by our fan. Like, anytime she's in the living room, if she takes notice of it like that, you can't get her attention off of it. That's all she wants to look at. So it's definitely going to be a lot of fun to kind of see where her personality goes as she gets a little bit older. And I'm very anxious for like that stage of when she starts cooing and she starts, like, you know, smiling basically with intention at, like, you know, people and, you know, friends that she recognizes and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that, but at the same time, I'm like, don't grow too fast. Like, I'm trying my best to like enjoy every single moment and not have any regrets. I don't really plan on having her in the videos, very little if at all, because I don't ever want her to feel like that she needs to, you know, be on camera, that this was my choice to, you know, start a YouTube channel and to kind of share my world, but I don't want her to feel like that she needs to do it. And I by no means want her to, I don't want this to be something that she needs to be involved in. And there's also just so much involved with children on the internet that I just really don't even think that I don't want that fear of her, you know, kind of being exposed out there on the internet at all. So I don't plan on her being on here a lot. Maybe later on in, you know, when she gets a little bit older, yeah, she probably will be a little bit, but not with any kind of like sole focus on her. So that's kind of basically what I have to say about that. But I did want to kind of say one more thing before I leave you guys. I really wanted to I really wanted to kind of say, for any of you out there who are going through infertility, who are maybe, going through a failed adoption or a miscarriage or any number of other things. And I'm going to try very hard not to cry because this is very, I think in a lot of ways this is still very raw for me, and it's still very, it still definitely is a little bit of a heartache that's left over. And I know that it's probably, I know that for me, I would hear stories like this and I would think oh yeah, that's, that's amazing, that kind of thing can happen for you, and that kind of stuff does happen. But then at the same time, I was like, but that doesn't happen for everybody. And I feel like that I said this on another video, that I want to believe that everything happens for a reason, and that everything happens in its own good time. But it's hard to believe that whenever you're right in the middle of, when you're right in the middle of the heartache and the struggles and all of that. I just want to say, don't give up hope. I kind of wanted to take this moment to kind of give you guys a little bit of a backstory. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because this does involve other people. And again, this was my choice to be on YouTube and to kind of share my life. It is not their choice to be on YouTube and to share their life. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I did kind of want to give a little bit of a story of kind of the whole adoption and everything. Basically kind of what's brought us here. I was actually working for a nursing home a few years back, and actually somebody that worked there, her daughter had actually just become a teacher at a preschool or something like that. And I was like, I would really love to do something like that. I've always loved kids. I'd really love to, be a teacher, to, be in a daycare or a preschool or something like that. And so shortly thereafter, this opportunity came up for this daycare, this learning center. And so I went for a job interview there. When I went to the job interview, there was one other lady there that was waiting for the same thing. She was waiting for the same company. It was a new learning center that was going to be opening sometime later that year, and so we were both there for different, for basically positions in the learning center. And so both of us actually ended up getting hired on in the kitchen. I met this woman that I had met at my interview. We met again, and we went to orientation together, and we, kind of started a friendship. Well, then, we started training together because we were both in the kitchen, and so we basically went through all of that together. So we were actually training at another center because our center was not open yet. We could not even go into the building. So we were training there. I asked them, I said, can I just work here, and then once I get my 3 credit hours, then I can go transfer back as a teacher at the other learning center. And they said, yeah, that was fine. And so that's what I did. And I want to say it was maybe for about 9 months. That's what I did. I worked there and they worked there. So finally I was able to get my hours and to get transferred back down to the center that I was originally hired for as a teacher. And this other woman that I had become friends with, she was working in the kitchen. To present day, we, had become really good friends, and we'd actually gone out and done stuff together outside of work, and we just really formed a pretty close friendship. And then here last year, it ended up that her daughter was pregnant. They would like for us to adopt the baby. Of course you hear that and you're like, oh, that's, that sounds amazing. Yes, I would love to, but at the same time, it's a very long wait, and you don't want to get your hopes up and then, change their mind. So we were very hesitant in the beginning, and it was actually quite a few months before we really actually were like, okay, yeah, let's talk to lawyers, let's do this, let's do that. And I actually like started going to the doctor's appointments, the prenatal appointments with them. And it was, again, it was just such an amazing experience, and it was just, absolutely wonderful. And we started like, all of us getting together and just kind of getting to know each other, because I had met her daughter before, but it was very minimal, and we'd never really talked. So this was a good chance for all of us to get together and to just visit, and we'd have dinner, and we play different like card games and board games and stuff. And, we just really kind of all started getting to know each other. I will tell you a couple of things, and you kind of think of it and you think, oh, that's silly, that's just a coincidence. And yeah, you're probably right. But I do kind of want to tell you like the little things that kind of led us to this. I chose to see as good omens that things were going to work out okay. I believe it was the day that my friend told me that her daughter was pregnant. I was driving to work, and this was before like I actually knew she was pregnant. I was driving to work, and there was a yard sale, and I looked over and I noticed there was a baby swing there. And so I went to work. Going back home, I noticed the yard sale was still there, and the baby swing was still out front. And I was like, what? There's a baby swing sitting out there and like nobody's bought it yet? And I just thought that was crazy. The next day we went and they still had it, and I asked how much it was, and it was only $20, and I was like, it's sold. I need to have that. And so that was kind of one of the signs that I saw. And again, it's kind of silly. Like, it's like, yeah, okay, there was a baby swing there. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a sign. But throughout, the next few months, there was several things that kind of happened that, just little silly things that if you think about them like an isolated incidents, you think that's just a coincidence. Like, there's nothing really about that. But yeah, I don't know. There was just a lot of things. And like I said, it was just me basically choosing to see them as good omens. And, it just was things that kind of gave me hope. It just really kind of, in a lot of ways, did seem like that this was God's way of saying it's gonna happen. This was what my plan was all the time. And, it just, it's hard to think that there's a time and a place for everything. And it's definitely hard to think that, maybe the plan that you have and maybe the plan that you wanted, maybe is not the plan that God has for you. And that's, it's hard to like give up on that, because when it's something that you want so badly, it's hard to veer off of that, and it's hard to like give up that dream. And I just feel like that I don't even have the words to really like describe to you and to really like show you that comfort, because I know that for me, like, I would hear those things and it's nice to hear, but at the same time you're just sitting back and you're like, yeah, but still, that doesn't mean that it's going to happen for me. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen the way that I want it to. But I will tell you what, that, basically kind of everything that sort of led us to this point definitely did seem very much like it was predestined for us, and that this was God's plan all along, that, we were meant to get to know these people, and we were meant to become friends with them, and it was meant for us to all, kind of converge and, basically to, meet and know each other. Another thing that kind of was really funny, after we had her home and I was sitting at the desk, printing some stuff off on the computer, and I looked up and there was this painting on the wall. And this painting was a painting that I'd actually gotten like a year and a half or 2 years ago from like this painting, painting class thing that I'd been to with another friend of mine a few times. While you're doing your painting and you're having fun, they also have these games, and I actually won one of the games, and I think it was probably like the only time that I'd ever won a game at this place. And my prize was that I could pick like they had some paintings, and I think they might have had like a couple of other things that like I could pick from to be my prize. And there was this painting of this like star constellation, and I've always been really into like astrology and stars and star constellations and the night sky and everything, and I just thought it was a really cool painting, and I was like, if nothing else, I'm gonna have this painting to kind of as inspiration for later on for me to make a painting similar to this. And so that was basically what it was. I kept it for that, and I still had it, and I was looking up at this painting, and I was like, that star constellation looks really familiar. And remember, like, this was like 1.5 to 2 years ago. Like, it was over a year before like any of this even came up, anything about the baby came up at all. I had actually seen a long time ago, it was like a nursery reveal or something like that, and they had like a little mural on the nursery that was of mom and dad and baby's star constellations. And I always thought that was a really cute idea, and I always kind of kept it in the back of my mind. So I had actually already looked up my star constellation, Randy's star constellation, and the baby's star constellation. And I looked it up, and sure enough, it was the Pisces star constellation, which is Elizabeth's birth star constellation, zodiac or whatever. And just by chance, I happened to win this game. And just by chance, it happened to be a painting of the Pisces star constellation. And then she ended up being a Pisces. It's funny because Randy's star constellation is, I believe it's Aquarius. And then she's Pisces. And then I'm Aries. And it's literally boom, boom, boom. One right after the other. And it was just so crazy. It was such a strange, like, I looked at that painting and I just could not believe that. I could not believe the coincidence of that. And yeah, that very possibly may be all it is a coincidence, but really, what is a coincidence? It just, you know, and maybe it's just seeing signs that, you know, just hoping for hope. But, you know, what do we have if we don't have hope? And I've said this several times to friends and family. If I stopped hoping that Brandy and I would never have, if I stopped hoping that Randy and I would never have a child, if I stopped hoping that one day we would be a family, that we would have a baby, if I stopped hoping for that, I would have no reason to smile. I would never want to get out of bed. Because honestly, I just can't. I can't, and I couldn't, and I can never imagine a world where that I'm not a mom. It was something that I'd wanted my whole life. And I know I've said this before, but this was just something that I desperately wanted deep inside my heart, and I always knew that that's what I wanted. And for me to think that no, that's never going to happen, and for me to be okay with that, it was never going to be okay. And so for me to have that hope, and for me to hold on to that hope by seeing these little signs and, you know, seeing maybe what I wanted to see, maybe delusionally seeing what I wanted to see, and thinking that was a sign that this was gonna happen, that things were gonna work out the way they were supposed to. You know, maybe a lot of people may think of that as being delusional, or maybe they think of it as being, you know, kind of, hippy dippy, or, you know, even like seeing the zodiac is, you know, kind of being like, basically that's showing you like the kind of person you're meant to be, or, you know, all of that. I don't believe in the zodiac, but I do believe that things happen in our life the way they're supposed to. Sometimes it's not what we want. And that's hard to take, and it's hard to see that's going to happen. And I think that that's kind of the big thing about faith, is that, you know, you want to believe that things are going to happen the way they're supposed to. You want to believe that God is looking out for you, and he's going to do what you need and what you want. That you're taught that God loves all of his children, and he wants them all to be happy, and he wants them to take care of each other. And, you know, you want to believe that those things are going to happen for you, those hopes and dreams that you feel in your deepest of hearts, that, you know, that everything's going to happen the way you want it to. But sometimes that's not the way it's supposed to happen. I constantly had that fear, that it just wasn't going to happen, that this was one of those things that we were not meant to have a child of our own, that we were meant to, you know, love our friends and our family's children, and, you know, to be the best aunts, uncles, you know, the best of friends with these children. But to me, it was still a very empty feeling. It was definitely a very hollow feeling. And so for me to have that hope and to see those signs, it was what gave me the strength to get out of bed every morning. And sometimes we need that. You know, maybe it does seem a little bit delusional, but, you know, the same way as children, you know, we saw joy in the simplest of things. You know, maybe that's what we need a little bit more of as adults, to find joy and to see hope in the smallest of things. And I hope that for any of you out there who are watching this video that are going through any kind of troubles, any kind of trials in your life, I hope that you will take away from this that there is good out there. Miracles do happen. And my hope and my prayers for all of you are that your deepest of hopes and your most deepest heartaches will be my hope is that for all of you who have the deepest of hopes and prayers, that they will come true. And if any of the heartaches that you are going through, that they will be soothed by, whether it be family, friends, or even the smallest of signs, the smallest of good signs that you will see in every day, in the smallest of things, that they will bring you hope, and they will bring you peace, and that you will walk away feeling better about whether it be your situation, whether it be about things that are happening in your life or things that are happening in the world. I know a lot of times we can watch the news and think there is no good in the world. But let me tell you, there is. And I hope that you will all feel it, and you will all feel your own little miracles every single day. So thank you so much for watching. Bye.